I was asked to report on the state of air pollution, and I think it can be very easy task because everybody knows how bad air pollution is in China. Last year, 1 year before, in January in Beijing, we heard a lot of news coverage about how bad air pollution is, and today we heard it again. 1 year later, still we have same bad air. But since it's not even just in Beijing, a lot of things happen in North China, where has severe air pollution has not been reported in the past, but it happened again. So October 2013, in Harbin, northern city, has another severe pollution and caused a lot of attention. And, people try to figure out what's the reason behind that. And Shanghai, traditionally, people think air pollution is not a big issue because it's a coast city. But then this Shanghai, the Yangtze River Delta has another severe air pollution. So again, we have a situation like this, and how the governments take action to that. Well, I think with all this public response or concern about this one, Chinese government has to take actions. First action, I think the most important one, is introduce the PM 2.5 into the Chinese ambient air quality standards as released in February 29th, if we're easy to remember, in 2012. And we have adopted the ambient air quality standards, the most relaxed one under this the WHO's guideline for air pollution. But this is a big progress for China. Well, we know that this ambient air quality is coming not simply easily mostly because of the first we had the U.S. Embassy released PM 2.5. It's caused a public debate, and people question the data of Beijing between monitoring stations. Then eventually we have this progress made by the Chinese government. Well, another action taken by the Chinese government is released or issued the action plan on prevention and control of air pollution, and introduced 10 measures to improve air quality. Well, it has set target to reduce the air pollution about at least 10% of all those inhalable particle matters. And especially for the different region, they have a much stricter or higher target, like the Beijing should reduce 25, Yangtze River 20, and Peking River 15% respectively. And hopefully that Beijing annual mean PM2.5 be reduced to 60. So this is one target, but it has more specifically a plan for that, like having too small. Well, first, to control the pollutants of various industry, like small co-firing boilers, desulfurization, denitrification, and also people can pay a lot of attention for the catering service, restaurant emission, and also vehicles, yellow label vehicles, old vehicles, and also promote public transport. So this is a really standard way people doing in other cities, and now Chinese government try to put emphasis. But more important now for the industry, we have growing fast economy, and this means what you have control is control the past. Talk about the newly added one that has been paying a lot of attention to that. And there's an industry trying to change the infrastructure and transition from the production chain to the upper levels. And this is well, there's also speed up the economic and technology reform to encourage the scientific innovation in the different industry sector. More importantly, is the environment industry and environment equipment products has put a lot high priority by the government. They believe that the environment industry is going to be the future, so they have project about 10% of GDP in the future came from environment industry. And also, the energy is a big issue in China now. We know that Chinese has done certain effort to control air pollution, but still why things happen so badly in air pollution. One big challenge is most of coal, the energy consumed came from coal burning. And this coal burning we could not switch simply by 1 year or 2 years. And the project the future energy consumption, we see now it's paper published 2007, but we see that roughly we're sitting in the level like this one, and even in the future, the percentage of coal will be reduced, but the total amount still will increase. So that's put a big pressure on China's government to reduce air pollution emissions. And there's also for the lunar industry to make sure they meet the standard. And now I think in this one it's very important to emphasize on market economy mechanism, try to encourage market system to provide the solution. And also another one is the central government has set a special fund to implement policy of reward for subsidy and improve policy on price and taxation and encourage private fund to participate in air pollution control. I think this is a very important message by the government and encouraging private sectors and the market system to be involved in these actions. And another one, I think legal system has also been paid attention to and try to ensure strict supervision and management system by law. I think it's very important thing to release the ranking of air quality cities. This is one big step in the transparency in government in dealing with air pollution. In the past, we know that we don't have enough data. Now, the government now has put a lot of emphasis on reporting the air quality monitoring results. Like each month, they will release the air quality of K regions, 74 cities each month. And so we know how the air qualities are in these different cities. There's also emphasized you want the law enforcement, which has also limited in the past. Now, this kind of introduced legal system is a very important one. And the other things we have been familiar as scientists, like we have been put a lot of effort to study the regional coordinate mechanism. Like we know that air pollution don't recognize the cities, they just traveling between the cross the boundary and the cross boundary within the Peking Delta, cross boundary between the Peking and Tianjin Hebei province. So this is, has been paid attention by the central government to each step to establish a regional coordinate mechanism. And there's another thing, the State Council will sign target response letters with all province government. That means each province government are responsible for controlling their own air pollution, but they have to be accountable by signed agreements. Is one step to ensure that they will do things correctly. So this like we have the news report that in the last year, the Minister of Environmental Protection has signed the so-called liability paper with all the province, and in these letters, all these cities and provinces will promise to reduce air pollution in the certain levels. Well, there are things like the establishing monitoring early warning emergency response system, and this has been, there's also a responsibility of all the parties involved. In the sense of establishing monitoring, now we see a lot of data released by Chinese cities, and here we can see the whole country, the Guangdong province, or the Shenzhen province close to Hong Kong. We can know things like this, and we can check data like this. And there's more data cities going to add in their monitoring results to this system. Now, there's also early warning or forecasting, like we just a couple of days ago, the fog or haze alarm throughout the whole China is now happening in Beijing, but has been forecast a couple of days ahead. And so I can quick summary that government has put tremendous effort to curb air pollution in China. Action have been taken in air pollution monitoring, forecasting, and emergency response. Now there's a progress to be made in the data release and the transparency in the, but there's more needed to be done to control the emission. This is a big issue. Well, we know how bad it is, but how to control it. But finally, I think all this policy just has been released in the virtual plan. How much scientific evidence behind it? That's the big question. Because government scrambling put all these measures, but in such short time, the people starting questioning maybe waste of some resource to some measures and then may not be effective. So in that sense, we try to emphasize the linkage between science and policy. That's very last slide. We think that reduction in air pollution requires coordinated effort of government from local to regional scales, and the support from experts in the field. The scientific research is a very important one. So this urgently needs organization to have this systematic effort, and we have been also trying hard to propose an institute, like Advanced Institute for Regional Air Resource Study, that's trying to provide systematic, continuous, comprehensive policy support. And this final one, I think, try to emphasize the importance in that direction. Okay, thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much.